everybody. Cal Banyan, Cal Banyan's Hypnosis, etc. Once again with the wonderful Meredith Locker. Hey, if you're watching this anywhere except calbanyan.com, you want to go there now, because right below this video on calbanyan.com, right down there, we got extra text, we got extra graphics, and we got links that just help you get to whatever we're talking about and make this video a lot more valuable. And by the way, I know some of you guys are downloading this on iTunes. That's good. Some of you guys are doing it video, and sometimes you're taking the audio and you're taking Meredith and I for a walk. That's all right. You, me, Meredith, your dog, that's all good. Riding a bicycle down the pathway, learning about hypnosis. Any way you want it, that's the way we want you to get it. Let me tell you about Meredith. Meredith Locker, talked about her last time, talk about her all the time. She is a consummate professional. Her clients love her. She's in Los Angeles, where she lives with her many dogs. She's got about 1 million dogs. You know those ladies that have 1 million cats? Well, she's like that with Chihuahuas. So whenever you see her, I want you to think about like the 101 Dalmatians. Except for her, it's like just a gazillion little Chihuahua dogs. Some of them are little ones and some are big, fat, honking, huge Chihuahua dogs. Anyway, if even with all that put aside, if I had a friend or family member in Los Angeles, I'd definitely send them to her, because she's super qualified, super capable. And how you doing, Meredith?
1 million dogs, really, Cal?
That would be 4 million little paw prints wandering around.
Okay, Cal, you're in full exaggeration mode. Guys, I have 2. I have 2, and I think he's confusing it because my parents also have 2, and you know, it takes a village to raise a Chihuahua, so we kind of have this communal dog action. So when I have them, all of them together, it's 4, but not 1 million, not 1 million dogs, Cal.
Okay. I sit corrected.
And one of them's like half a dog. Well, they probably all are half dogs, but Coco's like this big. She's like this teeny little 4-pound thing. Well, I'm not sure if you guys know who Cal is, but Cal is the person who brought us 5-Path. He brought us 7th-Path Self-Hypnosis. He's the author of books and articles galore. He is my mentor. He sees clients at the Banyan Hypnosis Center in Tustin, California. He's the one that trains the 1%ers, the top 1% of our profession, and he's the one that just keeps bringing hypnotism to whole new levels of excellence, Cal Banyan.
And I'm one big kidder, aren't I?
You sure are 1 million. People are getting visions of Meredith being this crazy dog lady. I'm a little crazy, and I am a dog lady, but not two together, not crazy dog lady.
We would still love you, even if everything I said about you was true.
Thanks, Cal. I'm so lovable.
Couple quick announcements, and then we'll get rolling with your topic. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, as you may have noticed, we've completely redone calbanyan.com. There's a navigation bar up there in the corner where all the navigation bars and websites go. And you can just stay here and not have to go to hypnosis.org or hypnosiscenter.org to get class information. And the reason this is so important is because there's early registration discounts. I mean, you can save hundreds of dollars on our National Guild of Hypnotists approved Banyan Hypnosis Certification Super Course. Why is it a super course? Because it's 5-Path and 7-Path, and also our Week of Power, which is our Advanced Hypnotherapy course, which is for you folks out there already certified, don't need to spend so much time on the basics. Go there. I'm not even going to tell you when they are like I usually do, because you could be watching this a month from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now, and they'll always be on this site now, and you can check to see if you qualify for an early registration discount. That's it. So what are we going to talk about today, Meredith?
Well, I love this when this happens. I got an email from a 5-Pather, and he has a question about bringing 5-Path, the idea of 5-Path, to a place that he works. And so thank you so much for submitting this question, Michael. He says, I have a question about possibly using 5-Path at my job. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor. He works in an outpatient facility that provides partial hospital and intensive outpatient services. So this is where people go in the daytime to get treatment, to get care. they're seen usually by multiple practitioners, usually a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and then depending on what it is, there may be a dietitian, there may be a medical doctor, there may be other specialists that help there. And he has been approached by the clinical coordinator of the Women's Trauma and Addiction Program to give a talk about the use of hypnosis as a treatment modality. And he has an extensive history with hypnosis, and so he's not concerned about talking about hypnosis, but he's a little concerned about talking about 5-path, especially with this population. He says these are women who suffered significant physical, sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse from various people in their lives. And, they've got all kinds of diagnoses. Now, of course, us hypnotists, unless we're licensed as a psychologist or psychiatrist, we don't diagnose, but these people already have diagnoses by properly licensed physicians or psychologists. Diagnoses such as major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic syndrome. Many of them have substance dependence, and then also borderline personality disorder. So they've got a whole slew of diagnoses, these women who come to this center. And his concern is, if I talk about regressing back to the initial sensitizing event, now when we do age regression, which is phase 2 of 5-path, what we do is we regress to the initial sensitizing event. Now, if you want more information about age regression, we did a whole series, 10 Keys to Successful Age Regression, podcasts 108 to 114. We're not going to get into that here. You can go there if you need more details about age regression. But the initial sensitizing event is what we find as we follow back the emotion and we get to that initial cause of their current problem. We follow it all the way back. So my concern is that when I talk about regressing back to this initial sensitizing event, they might see this as re-traumatizing the client, and that may turn them off. How can I use the 5-path process and not make the clients re-experience their abuse? So Cal, do you want to talk about this for a little bit?
Well, the answer is you cannot do 5-path or age regression work without having them re-experience the event.
Yes.
Isn't that what was that? Was that your question?
Well, that's part of it. Because of course there's but maybe there's more to it here, right?
Okay, I'm just funning you a little bit. So, it sounds like he's a little bit concerned between doing, in your words you said hypnosis, they're okay with doing hypnosis, but they're concerned about doing 5-path, right?
Concerned that 5-path and the pieces within 5-path, like age regression, might be off-putting, yes.
Yes. And by off-putting, what kind of off-putting are they concerned about?
Particularly re-traumatizing these clients.
Which is obviously impossible. Mm-hmm. And you know what, viewers out there, Meredith and I, we don't always spend very much time talking about what we're going to do in these videos, as you could probably tell, right? And but we did talk for a minute or two about this one. And Meredith, I thought you had some really good points. And do you want to tell them a little bit about your thoughts before I kind of take over?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that was being assumed here incorrectly, possibly, is that the initial sensitizing event might actually be these extreme traumas that these clients have experienced. We don't assume, as 5-pathers, we don't assume what the initial sensitizing event is going to be. Now, true, it's quite possible that some of the physical, sexual, verbal abuse that these women have experienced could come up in an age regression, either as an initial sensitizing event or as a subsequent sensitizing event. It's quite possible, so I don't want to deny that, but it's a mistake to assume that they will. In my experience, it's often smaller things that create substance abuse or whatever the challenge is that the person's dealing with at the time, even if they've experienced some significant trauma in their life, that may not come up in an age regression at all, because the big things we often do something about, we resolve in some way, whereas it's more the smaller things that seem at the time not big enough to get some help with, like, for instance, being 3 years old and mom being sick for an extended period of time. That may not seem, in the vast majority of life experiences, to be a hugely traumatizing event, but for that child, that might have been an initial sensitizing event of fear, and feeling abandoned, and all of the things that a child might feel when a parent is suddenly, especially a mother, is suddenly withdrawn or not there or not focused on the child, or they even go away altogether for a while, whether it's to have another child or to go to be hospitalized for an illness. This can be extremely traumatizing for a child, but wouldn't be what traditional psychology would consider a traumatizing event like rape. So it's a mistake to assume that it will be them experiencing the big abuse again. That was my first point that I wanted to make to Michael. And second, do you have anything to add to that before I get into the second point, Cal?
Well, I just think that is so tremendous, and that is that we don't want to be fooled by the obvious. And this happens all the time in talk therapy, other kinds of counseling and stuff, that there'll be this obvious cause of the problem. But usually the event that people call the cause of the problem, not the cause of the problem, it's not the ISE, it is the SPE, the symptom producing event. And only in the age regression work, the AR work, that we can uncover the true ISE. You're doing great, Meredith. Keep rolling.
Beautiful. So the second point that I made to Michael was that, the truth about these women is that unless they have resolved their feelings about the big traumatizing events in their life, they are reliving them all the time anyway. So, and even traditional therapy is about experiencing them to some extent. That's part of what it's about, is digging in and figuring out what feelings are involved there, and helping to diffuse them, helping to neutralize them, helping the person to come to some level of peace and understanding, and have a perspective about the event that allows them to be able to move forward in a healthier way. And in hypnosis, and particularly in 5-Path, what we do is neutralize the emotion. Yes, they may have to experience what might have been a traumatizing event. In fact, they probably will. But it's a speed therapeutic modality that allows us to quickly shift perspective to see, I didn't die. I'm not going to die here. I am going to be okay. Everything does work out for me, and bring that information into that time and that experience, so that person can then have the stability that comes from knowing that everything worked out. And so it's really important to know that 5-Path does it quicker than traditional therapy does. So yes, maybe re-experiencing, but faster. And the truth is that if you've got a major event that isn't resolved within yourself, anything that resonates with that, any feeling that's in the vicinity of the feeling that person felt when they experienced that trauma, I say in quotes, it is going to be experienced again and brought back up, just because they're experiencing that feeling again. And so 5-Path is about neutralizing all of that, resolving all of that, so they don't have to keep reliving it. They don't have to keep experiencing the fear, the pain, the sadness, all of these emotions that end up eating them up from the inside out, and is the reason why a lot of people try to numb themselves with substances and with food and with all kinds of these distractors, because they are re-experiencing the pain over and over again within themselves. And so yes, a client may have to experience it again quickly, but with 5-Path we resolve it so that they don't have to keep re-experiencing it again over and over and over again. Do you have something to add or clarify there, Cal?
Well, I think that you're getting it. I just love having you guys on because I can just sit back and go, yeah, you're doing good. That's exactly right. This idea of resonance, and that is that we get around people that make us feel the same way, or situations that make us feel the same way as we did in the past, and those emotions, those fears, and even thoughts, and even childish behaviors from the past can resonate into the now. So we are constantly reliving it. It's not until we have gone back and relive the event with the advantage of hindsight that we're going to be able to do with age regression, as we have the grown-up go back and talk to the quote traumatized child, or the one that experienced a much smaller event in an ISC, that those feelings can be switched to one based in reality that does not contain the strong emotional power that's been driving them to all their different problems. Now, I'm just going to add a couple of things, and I'll let you wrap it up. One is, it's really important that you get this across to a treatment team, because when you're dealing with people in these kinds of situations, they have a team. They have a social worker, they have a psychologist, a psychiatrist. You need to get them all on your side, that they know what's coming, and it's got to make sense to them. Or what will happen is sometimes you'll have a client that doesn't handle it very well, and they're upset, and they'll complain to their counselor or to their social worker or a psychologist, and that if the treatment team does not understand that this is going to be hard work, and it can be in the short term upsetting and stirring up the stuff, then you probably shouldn't proceed. And by the way, doing this kind of insight-oriented work is not appropriate for people who are seriously mentally ill, such as schizophrenia, because one thing is we don't have enough experience on it to recommend it. Second is what happens is when you start stirring all that stuff up, they will tend to become more symptomatic. They will decompensate, and they can wind up back in the psych ward when they were otherwise handling life pretty well. Certainly under a controlled circumstance, we need to do more research about this. I believe that there may be a way with particularly late onset schizophrenia that where people who've been working with the client for a long period of time and trust is already built up, that hypnosis could be a valuable tool, but at this point we cannot recommend it, but we do recommend more research in that area. Proceed.
Yeah, well, Cal, I was thinking about how would you present to a group like this, because usually with 5-Path, certainly if we're talking to a client, we wouldn't get into a whole lot of detail about what we're going to do. But when you're talking to the therapeutic team, you're talking to the treatment team, how much detail about the 5-Path process would you get into? Where would you draw the line?
Well, I would refer them to an article on one of my websites that outlines 5-Path. And, you could do a search on Google 5-Path article, or we can put a link below, but I have articles on that. And academians, physicians, psychologists, counselors, social workers are used to reading articles on therapy. And so I'd refer them to one of those. And then I would say, read this, and then I'll have a meeting with you, and it might need to be one-on-one, it might be meeting the team, and I would just take them through the 5 phases. And that's an advantage of 5-Path over just being a hypnotherapist that shoots from the hip, goes on an intuitive basis, or otherwise doesn't have a plan. As you can say, okay, here's my plan for this client. Phase 1, we're going to do all the preparation, testing, convincing, make sure this person is a person who can go into a deep hypnosis, and they're going to be convinced, educated, all that stuff. Phase 2, we're going to find the cause of this problem. We're going to do hypnotic age regression, and we're going to do an insight-based process where we're going to be able to bring the insight that the adult has now, and also the counselor, social worker, hypnotherapist, insight to the problem, neutralize it. And then every time we do an insight-based thing like this, it's going to make them hyper-suggestible so that we can give them suggestions for what they're seeing us for. And so at the end of every session, we will do that kind of direct suggestion work. Then we're going to move through some forgiveness work to help detach them from any anger issues or guilt issues, and that would be phases 3 and 4. And then something very, very cool is that in phase 5, if it exists, secondary gain, if secondary gain exists, we can go in and neutralize that to give a long-lasting result. And we can just simply go through that and answer any questions. And I'd get a yay or nay from them.
Perfect. Well, I think that definitely answers Michael's question, and I really believe that that can benefit so many other people out there who are kind of working in that kind of a modality or in that kind of a treatment center. I know I worked there at one time, and for eating disorders, and I would have loved to have been able to bring 5-Path into that environment. And it just blows my mind the progress that I'm able to make with people with eating disorders now that I can't even imagine what it would do for that treatment center if I were able to bring 5-Path into their organization. And to those, I worked predominantly with teenagers with eating disorders, and to be able to shift those teenagers' lives would just be so rewarding. And I do it now in private practice, but I would love to see more and more of 5-Path being brought into these centers, because those people need it. They really do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, Cal, and sign myself off. If you have any further announcements, you can make that. But we definitely want these kinds of questions. Any question is a good question. Please do email me, Meredith, at yourpathhypnosis.com. You can also post them down there in the feedback section at calbanyan.com. Go to our Hypnospace Ask Cal page, and you can post them there, or it's the group, Ask Cal group. We definitely look forward to hearing from you. This is Meredith Locker signing off.
All right, thank you very much, Meredith. This is Cal Banyan. Please, everybody, go to facebook.com/hypnosis etc, which is hypnosis, etc., where we do all the insider stuff and talking about what's going on with the show and giving you a heads up on what's coming up and stuff like that. All right, please use our new navigation system on calbanyan.com. Click over there and find out what's coming up as far as classes and stuff like that. Cal Banyan, signing off.
This recording is the property of Cal Banyan and the Banyan Hypnosis Center for Training and Services, Incorporated. All rights reserved, for private use only, may not be duplicated without permission. For contact information, go to www.hypnosiscenter.com.